It's a Tuesday night and we're talking Buffy Season 3. Hey there, welcome to another edition of the Sunday Scaries. I'm your host, Mike. It's a Tuesday night. We're bringing you another Tuesday Terror and we're reviewing the Buffy series. And tonight we have for you Buffy Season 3. And this is another one of those Buffy seasons that is firing on all cylinders, which is saying something considering the second season ended on such a high note and was such a thrill ride from start to finish. And this one's really no different. It picks up kind of where we left off, and unlike last season where it started out really lighthearted and got darker as the season went on, this one's kind of the opposite. Buffy just got suspended. She ran away from her mom. You know, she feels like her friends she can't go back to. They don't understand because they don't know that she had to kill her boyfriend Angel because the spell they cast at the end of the last season restored his soul. And, you know, she's in a lot of turmoil, so she runs away for the summer. And it's probably got my favorite first episode of any season in the series, where she's working a diner and somebody that she had helped in the past she runs into, and she has to go to this whole other dimension where these demons are enslaving people and save a bunch of people. And it kind of reminds her that she is a hero and she needs to go back to Sunnydale and help the people that she's responsible for, given that she has the powers of the Slayer. So Buffy comes back and she's working through some of her trauma. She's making an amends with her friends for leaving. Of course, her mother welcomes her back with open arms, and you know, that's just sort of a child's fear of running away from your parents and disappointing them, and you can't go home. And she has to work on getting readmitted to school again, given that Principal Snyder just loves that she's suspended and loves making her life miserable. And then the season gets really interesting. A new Slayer comes to town. Her name is Faith, and I love her character. She's the complete opposite of Buffy. She pretty much had no parenting for the most part. She's really rough around the edges. She clearly is not as in tune with her emotions as Buffy is. She's got dark black hair, wears dark lipstick, whereas Buffy, you know, is blonde, and they have complete opposite as far as tones, and they're kind of a mirror for each other of what their lives could have been like had they had different guidance and upbringings. Because even though Buffy comes from a divorced family, you know, she has two parents that do clearly love her, and then she inherited a watcher, and Giles has been like a father figure to her, whereas Faith has had almost no guidance. But they're both incredibly strong and resourceful, and you know, there is goodness in Faith, and you see that in a lot of scenes, even though she kind of has this self-defense mechanism where she thinks she can just use everybody and close off her emotions. And outside of Faith coming in and shaking some things up with having two Slayers back in town, the relationships in this season kind of get tested. Now, Angel does come back, and it's not 100% clear how he comes back from the hell dimension that Buffy sent him to. Somehow the gift that he gave her, she leaves where he was vanquished, and he comes back, and he's kind of feral. He doesn't know what's going on, but Buffy rehabilitates him. And so they sort of start dating again, and they have to figure out their relationship in this season. But you also have Willow and Xander, and you know, there was some teases going on that they might be interested in each other, and they have a moment of weakness when Spike comes back into town and kidnaps them because Drusilla left him, and you know, he wants Willow to cast a love spell on her. But while they're trapped, they have this intimate kiss, and there's some other things that happen before that. Long story short, it leads to Xander and Cordelia breaking up. Willow and Oz have a rough patch, but Oz, who is very mature for such a quiet and soft-spoken character, kind of works through it with her, and you know, he really does love and care for Willow. And you know, Oz is somebody I really do love in this show. I love his one-liners, his witty humor. You know, even at the end of the season, he drops a few lines as they're graduating high school that I just think are great. But you know, he shows this maturity and works through it with her. And that leads to a whole other mess of different things. But this season's big bad is the mayor. And the mayor is such a fun character because he's a complete opposite of Angelus. Angelus is just like ruthless and calculated and tries to harm people both physically but emotionally. The mayor is this human that made a deal with the demons to build a town on the Hellmouth. And as part of his deal, 100 years after he made that deal, he's going to ascend into this god demon. You know, he's got powers and he's lived for so long. They've gifted him this immortality as part of the deal. And he's just pretended to be his sons every generation to stay mayor for like 100 years. And, you know, he's interesting because he's evil. He has all these plots. You know, he's clearly trying to kill the Slayers, but, you know, at the same time, he's goofy. He's a germaphobe. He makes all these jokes. And he's one of those bad guys that he's menacing at times, but at the same time, he's so goofy and funny. And it just makes him so much fun. And I love the mayor. And he's in the running for best villains in the series. If I end up doing a ranking, it's going to be really hard to pick between him and some of the other ones. And eventually the mayor does get to Faith and brings her in as one of his kind of secret agents and his top assassin because, you know, Faith, again, she's been through so much and, you know, she kind of goes towards the dark side after an accident where she accidentally kills a human being, which Slayers are allowed to kill demons, but they're not supposed to kill people. And she kind of revolts. And it turns into this whole Buffyverse Faith kind of rivalry, and you see the dark and the light kind of colliding to fight. Of course, Buffy eventually wins, but it's quite the showdown. And then at the end of the season, you know, Buffy does stop the mayor. She figures out how to blow him up on graduation day and with the whole school. And, you know, there's all these kind of fallouts from that. But, you know, that's the general gist of this season. And it's a ton of fun. It's an action-packed joyride. Again, it starts out kind of dark and gets a little bit lighter. But there are some themes I want to tackle in this season. So the first theme I always like to think about this season, again, is Faith versus Buffy. And it's very clear Buffy could have been a much different person had she had a different background. And Faith is a really good example of how rough and around the edges she could have been. And Faith is not a bad person necessarily, you know. Again, she's had a rough upbringing. You know, you see goodness in her where she's kind of making good choices earlier in the season. But after they accidentally kill somebody in Bad Girls, where Faith is trying to be this influence on Buffy and she kind of likes it, where they're breaking into stores, they're stealing weapons, they're, you know, having this mentality of I see, I take, I want. And it's supposed to be just kind of transactional for being the Slayer, that they can do bad. And through this experience in Bad Girls, Buffy really does realize she's not like Faith. And there's also another episode where there's an alternate universe where Buffy never came to Sunnydale. It's caused because after Cordelia, she wishes that Buffy never came to Sunnydale, and she doesn't know she makes the wish to a vengeance demon who creates this reality. And that vengeance demon is Anya, who, long story, will become human in a future season and eventually actually date Xander, which is ironic. But in this reality, you see if Buffy hadn't come to Sunnydale, she would have been really rough. She wouldn't have cared about people. She would have been scarred and bruised both on the inside and out. And, you know, that just ties back into Faith, that she really could have gone down this path where maybe she would have gone and worked for the mayor like Faith. And she eventually has to fight Faith, and she puts her in a coma after Faith poisons Angel, and the only cure is Slayer blood. And it's a big duel. And the other cool thing about that is shows the mayor really did care for Faith. He became like a father figure to her because he flips out when she's in a coma and loses his cool. He only loses his cool like one time in the whole show, and it's over Faith being in the hospital. Another major theme is, even though Angel comes back and he is very helpful, they start dating again, and their relationship's very rocky because, you know, they can't really be together. They don't have a future. He's immortal, she's human, they can't have children, they can't be intimate together at all or he'll lose his soul again. And so they go through some rockiness because of that, and he helps her for the whole season. But at the end of the fight with the mayor, before they even go and fight him, Angel makes the decision to leave. And he goes to Los Angeles and starts his own spin-off show, actually called Angel, which there's some really great episodes in that series that I'll reference in this, but I'm not going to do a whole series review on Angel, at least not anytime soon. You know, again, they have to come to terms. They can't be together, even though they love each other. And there's an ongoing debate among fans, you know, who is Buffy's true love? And I do believe it was Angel, but, you know, a lot of people, their characters they like better than Angel because he is a little one-dimensional, at least when he's good. But I will get more into that next season and explain my thoughts on that. And then I also think you see how the other side characters really evolve. Again, you know, Cordelia's leaving the show at the end of the season, so her and Xander had to break up, but Xander goes through his own thing. He has this one random night where he actually kind of helps save the Scooby Gang, even though they don't know it, and he's running around town, and it's called the Zeppo, and it's a great episode. But, you know, he goes through a lot of growth, and then he starts sort of seeing Anya at the end of the season after she becomes human as punishment for the whole Cordelia alternate universe. She kind of botches something, and then she's trying to teach this person that hasn't been human for like hundreds of years how to be human again and be mortal. You know, Willow goes through a lot of growth. You really start to see her magic as a witch start to come through in this season, and it really gets stepped up next season. But she's playing with magic, and that's going all over the place. And she has a great episode where the vampire version of her comes from that alternate universe into their reality, and she kind of sees what herself would be like if she was bad. And there's some hints of things to come with Willow. You know, Oz and her, they really work through their relationship. And then Giles has a really interesting storyline in this season because the Watchers Council task him to inject Buffy with serums that make her weaker and try to test her to fight a vampire. And the long story short, it's a test, and it's kind of a betrayal of Buffy's trust. And he fails the test because he ends up going to help save Buffy, and he gets kicked out of the Watchers Council. And then they send this new guy, Wesley, who's just a total drone and tool, and everyone can't stand him, and he's supposed to be the Watcher for Faith and Buffy. But, you know, he goes through a growth where he would rather protect Buffy than honor his sworn duty as a Watcher. And so he becomes kind of an unofficial Watcher in this season. And even though him and Buffy go through this little rough patch after he sort of participates in this test that goes horribly wrong, they get through it stronger than ever, and he prioritizes her. And then the last person is also Buffy's mom. You know, she now knows Buffy's a Slayer, and she has to come to terms with her daughter's a superhero, and so she kind of tries to be mom, but she also is trying to learn what her lifestyle entails, and still trying to push her though into college, even though college doesn't really matter for a Slayer. So just really interesting dynamics with the characters in this. And then the last moment I really want to focus on in this season, that it's not really a theme, but it's something I really appreciate, is the prom episode. You know, the whole time Buffy for 3 years has been saving all these students, and people have been dying at Sunnydale High, and she always just feels like no one really notices her, no one appreciates her, and it's just her duty. Well, at the prom, the committee, you know, they make a special award, and they give her this special gift of this like sparkly umbrella, and they just announce, you know, hey, is Buffy Summers here? You know, we have an award for you. And you know, they talk about how they know their school is not like other schools, and she's always been there to protect the class, and so they award her class protector. And it's a really beautiful moment just to see Buffy finally get appreciated, because she's literally given her life at times for the good of everyone else. It's kind of this moment, instead of being an unsung hero, she gets her little appreciation, and it's just a great moment in the series. All right, let's get in the ranking, guys, and you can probably tell I adore this season. So I do give it a 5 out of 5. Some of the standout episodes, I gotta say, is the prom, like I just said, but also the doppelganger, the wish. Those are great episodes. Bad Girls, the climax at graduation day, part 1 and 2. Those are all just terrific episodes. I love that first episode. And, you know, there's just some fun filler episodes too, even with Spike coming to town for one episode, and he's so insightful, telling Buffy and Angel they'll never just be friends. And, you know, he's speaking out of a place of hurt because him and Drusilla broke up. A bunch of great episodes, both for the large plot and just some side little one-off episodes. And as far as the fun meter goes, I also give it a 5 out of 5. Again, just terrific season. This is one I really can watch start to finish. I don't want to skip any episodes. I just love them all, and it's got a lot of really high moments in the series, not a bunch of really low ones, but there are some just heart-wrenching moments, and they're more feel-good than ripping my heart out, other than maybe Angel leaving the series. But there's just a ton of stuff in this season, and I highly recommend this one. and it's worth watching just the first 3 seasons of Buffy if you don't feel like you can commit to 7 whole seasons. All right, guys, thanks for tuning in. Please subscribe and like. I appreciate the support, and leave a comment. I'd love to know what you think of Buffy season 3. Again, this is one of my favorite in the series, so leave a comment. And all I know is I'm jacked to go to work tomorrow because I just talked about Buffy season 3.